It's your Tuesday, May 21st morning wake-up call. Getting right into the planning numbers. Yesterday, trade had pre-bought all three grain markets here in anticipation they would see a slower planning pace than last week. But instead, exactly the opposite was true. Corn planning picked up the pace significantly. Corn planning came in at 70% compared to the average, which is 71%. So that is closer to the average pace than we saw last week. It was a very significant planting week last week, coming in the second highest level for that particular week in many years, and over a decade, really. So again, everybody running a planner out there made fantastic progress in corn, picking up the pace, which may see a reversal in trade's opinion on the planning pace once we get past 8:30 today. In beans, planning pace was at 52% compared to a 49% average. So bean planning pace remains ahead of average, and it has been that way all spring. At times, we've gotten the impression that bean planting pace had been slow and that weather had slowed it, and we saw plenty of bounces in the markets, which also gave that impression. But by the numbers, the bean planting pace has been perfectly fine, if not a little bit ahead of average all spring. So we could see beans ease back a little bit of support from that as well, seeing a better than expected number. In wheat, spring planting 79% compared to an average of 65. That spring wheat planting has been well ahead of pace all year. The hard red winter wheat, good to excellent rating, fell 1% to 49%. However, we may see some focus shift back over to the recent wheat tour yields that came out last week, which suggested potential for 3-year highs in Kansas wheat yields. So the good to exit rating still solid at 49%, but trade may be looking for more of these wheat tour numbers than they are looking for a good to excellent rating. So if we hear any more numbers in that regard, that's what we would want to focus on, because that's what we feel trade will focus on. Now, yesterday, Reuters did come out with a story for wheat talking about how Russian wheat export prices had jumped significantly. That is the main issue, that overnight traders have been adding support to our wheat every day for almost 2 weeks running. Now, most of the time, our day session traders turn the focus back to our fantastic wheat conditions here. But yesterday, that story did look like it caught the attention of our day session traders to, for at least one day, put attention over on Russia. So you take the overnight bounce plus our day session traders trading that, and you had a significant bounce in wheat yesterday. So now that we see these fantastic U.S. numbers, we'll see if that attention does shift back to our wheat conditions here today. We'll know that probably quickly after 8:30 when our day session starts. Switching over to cattle, actually, not much news in cattle yesterday. No surprises, really. Box beef was slightly higher, as trade most likely expects. The average cash trade last week was up $2.09. That might be just a little bit less than traders expected. And this week's show list is plus 4,200. Now, cattle finished the day yesterday already pre-pricing in about a $1 higher cash trade this week. That's not entirely out of line. If box beef keeps moving higher, $1 higher cash is possible. Otherwise, we might say start with the assumption of a number more like steady cash trade this week. Either way, nothing to get too excited about just yet. And we saw that in yesterday's cattle trade, trading mostly calm all day. The one thing we do want to point out is box beef. If you add choice and select together, you get a number of 616. That is highly significant because 2 times in the last 12 months, box beef stalled out right about here. Back last year, it stalled out at 610, and earlier this year, it stalled a significant rally at 617. So being at 616, obviously, that number is important to be watching. We do want to stress watching box beef every day, but this week could be even larger influence than most other weeks. So if you have any questions on anything you've heard here, of course, give me a call direct if you'd like at 815-578-6159, and continue checking us out on the web and listening to our morning wake-up calls.